Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Let's Create, and this time we're going to be making maps. So why did I choose to make maps for this episode? Well, I love making maps and it's one of my most popular workshops when I visit schools. So why are maps so powerful? Well, number one, they're fun to draw, so that's always a good start. Number two, they help us to imagine the world that we're creating. And number three, it can help us to think of ideas for our story as our characters travel across this land that we've made up and all the places they're going to go to and the people they're going to meet. So let's find out how we make a map. So to make your map, you're going to need obviously a piece of paper. I've got a piece of blue card. I'm hoping that will make it easier for you to see what I'm doing. You're going to need some rice, probably not a whole packet, and you're obviously going to need a pencil for you to draw your map. I might use a pen just to make it easier for you to see. So you're going to start off by just pouring some of the rice onto the piece of card, just like this, into a random shape. Make some bits stick out, some bits come inwards, and then perhaps give it a little bit of a shake. Now what you can also do is you can move some of the grains around, the ones that are sort of out on their own, and they can make little tiny islands that are on the edge of your bigger island. So I'm just going to do this a little bit. You might also want to just get rid of some bits and just push them out of the way and not include them, so we end up with quite a nice, neat, tidy shape. I'm going to push these ones over here just in a little bit. I'm going to move these over here just to make it a little bit easier for myself when I draw around the rice in a moment. So there we've got our island shape made out of the rice. All you need to do now is simply draw around it with your pencil, following the shape that the rice makes. Now we do it like this because we end up with a wibbly wobbly shape, because that is what we want with our island. We don't want big sweeping curved lines, or it just doesn't look very natural. And we definitely don't want any straight lines, because I'm sure you've been told by somebody, maybe at school, maybe somebody in your family, there are no straight lines in nature. So I'm doing this really quickly. You can obviously spend a lot more time on this, making sure that you get it right. So I've gone around the big island. Now I'm going to just go around some of these smaller ones that I've made on the edges here. Oh, I moved that piece of rice, but it doesn't really matter. And I've got one down here as well, look. And one, oh, this is going to end up being a really interesting shape over here. Right, and now for the final step, got a bowl here ready. I'm going to tip my rice away, and there is my finished island with a collection of smaller islands to go with it. So now we've made our island, we've now got to fill it with all the different things that we would find on an island. Now I would start with the geographical features. So I would start with maybe some mountains, and I always think it's a good idea to use the mountains to split your island into smaller chunks. So I'm going to put a chain of mountains over here, and I'm going to put another set all the way over here, and try not to put them in a straight line, because that again doesn't look very natural. Maybe make them into a little bit of a blob. Now I'm doing this really quickly, so this video isn't too long. You can spend a lot more time getting this just right. So by doing the mountains across the middle of my map like this, I've now cut my island into two different parts. You could have one group of people that live up here, one group of people that live down there. Right, so we've got our mountains. Next we could add some rivers. Now I'm sure you know this, rivers always start in the mountains. So I'm going to start up here and I'm going to wind my way down to the shore where the river is going to join the sea. And again, we might want to make that a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to have some rivers come off of the rivers, just to make it look a little bit more interesting. Here we go. That's looking good. I'm pretty pleased with that. And then I might also want to, I should probably make that go all the way to the edge, shouldn't I really? That was a little bit silly. There you go. You might also want to add some lakes. Now those lakes might be where the river splits, like here, for example. So I'm going to add a lake here. Obviously you might do this with coloured pencils. So there you go, I've got a few lakes. I'm going to put one here halfway down this river, not necessarily where it splits. And finally, the last thing I'm going to show you is adding some forests. Now, when I add my forests to my maps, I always make sure that they follow the land. So I'm going to follow the river here, and it's going to come across here, follow the river, follow the mountains, and then to make it quick and easy, I'm just going to shade it in with some cross hatching. Now obviously, being a map, we could make ourselves a key to explain what everything means. So here's my key over here. I'm doing this really quickly. Forest, river. So we could make a key. We could even put a north, south, east and west. We could put a compass on there. And now you've put your rivers, mountains and forests. I'd probably put a few more forests on there. We can then add all sorts of other things. A ruined castle, a volcano, maybe some caves. It's entirely up to you. Now there are loads and loads of fantasy stories in particular that use maps. So maybe have a look at some maps from films and books, and they can give you some ideas too. Right, go and get your paper, your pens and some rice or something similar. If you haven't got any of that in the cupboard, make sure you ask somebody before you take it, and have a good go at making your own maps. Hope you have a lot of fun. So now you've drawn your map, what's next? Well, now you've got to do your planning. So think about films that you've seen, books that you've read, maybe games that you've played, and it's going to really help you. We need to give some of the places names, like the haunted forest, the swamp of doom, so that when your characters travel to places, your reader already gets a bit of an idea of what the place is like just by the name. Think about how are your characters going to travel from one part of your island to the next part, and more importantly, what's going to happen on the way? What dangers and challenges are they going to face? Now, if you've watched loads of films and books where you have quests and adventures like Lord of the Rings and all kinds of films like that, you will know that often the characters have to go to a place, but to get there, they have to go to other places first and get help, and maybe to get there, they have to overcome a danger. So there is all kinds of exciting ideas that you can come up with this. So stop watching this video now, go and draw your map and start creating your ideas for an epic adventure. See you next month. Ta-ra!